up, everyone? Today we're going to do a multi-video. We're going to do one on how to get the greenest grass in your neighborhood, and two, how to properly spread fertilizer and what type to do so. So this is my front yard. We've done it before. It is a mixture, mainly because the way the sun is. This right here never really sees too much sun, so that's Kentucky bluegrass with a little bit of tall fescue in there. They grow pretty much the same rate, and the color is pretty much similar. The blade width is a lot wider on this though than Kentucky bluegrass, so if you could really look at it, you could tell a difference. And I feel like it yellows a lot faster. But I usually do this about 10 days or so before the 4th of July because I like to stripe. I'll put a picture or video at the end of it when we're talking about striping, but I like to stripe my grass, and striping becomes very popular on the 4th. So I'm going to do this a little earlier so I could put it on the internet a little earlier and have everyone have an ability to maybe do this. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to fertilize. Now, I mulch. If you were to take a bag, such as this one, of fertilizer, put it on the ground, and with no grass at all, put it on there, take your mower over it, on a mulching setting, it's not going to pick it up. It might disperse it a little bit more, but that's it. Even if you were to put a bag on there, it's not going to pick it up. So don't worry if you're going to fertilize and then mow. You don't have to do it in a certain order. I like to stripe, so I don't want to mess up my stripes. So I'm going to fertilize first, then mow, and then do a different application as well. So first things first, get yourself a walk behind spreader. I don't care what it is. This one's cheap. I use it. It works great. It doesn't have a side guard. That's fine. I'm not too much into that myself, but you be you. Don't use a hand one. This is only 400 square feet, and I still use this just because you have a lot less likelihood of like fertilizer coming out and like falling out and burning. The smaller ones seem to clog up pretty easy, and they just, you stop, you take the handle, and then all of a sudden the entire time, it may not clog up, the motion clogs up, but the entire time fertilizer is still falling into the little thrower, and then it just falls into your grass. It's really hard to take it out once that happens, so it's just better not to. So what we're going to do is I'm going to fertilize. How you do that is you go around the edges the entire way, and then I'm going to do lines going back and forth, throwing it to the wheel marks of my other pass. So when I start doing the center, I'm actually going to be throwing it to the very edge of the grass. When I go on the edge, I'm actually going to be throwing a little bit on the concrete. That's fine. That's mainly just because I don't have an edge guard. And later we'll take a leaf blower and we'll blow it all back in the grass, and no harm, no foul. If you do that though, you have to make sure to put the remaining into the yard, because if you don't, especially if it rains soon after, which tomorrow it will be raining, that's why I want to do it today. Because if it doesn't rain, you need to water fertilizer in, especially this type, but it will leave marks on your concrete. The previous owner, if you can see those, did that, and it's very hard to take off. They were a lot worse. I still have yet to get them all off, but whatever. And that should be pretty good. I like to do it this way. Take a half rate and go one direction and then go the other direction. Just kind of lessens the likelihood of darker spots, like dark lines, because one area might be a little thicker. It just happens. And if you do that, kind of like an X pattern, then it evens it out a lot better. So I'm going to put you down and do that, and then we will get into the next step. Be right back. So something I want to bring up before I do that is get yourself a fertilizer that has a really small particle size. I think they're called prills, but it makes even disbursement a lot more obtainable, because the bigger they are, you'll just have hot spots no matter what you do. These small ones, if you put a lot of little tiny ones out there, you just get a lot better even coverage. Okay, be right back. Okay, so got all that done. Kind of ran a little short at the end. I think my spreader was a little heavy, but oh well. It is what it is. I got him pretty even though. I'm not too upset about it at all. So what I'm using is this. Now, I did a little research on this and I actually found someone else on YouTube. He's in Georgia, I want to say, that uses something very similar to this. And he actually has some pretty good ideas on it as well. But the reason why I like it is this. If you look at it, it's a 1608. So that's 16% nitrogen, 0% phosphorus, and 8% potassium, so, or potash. So what that is going to do, the reason why I like it is obviously the nitrogen. That's a pretty good, decent number. And the types. There's urea, water-soluble, and other water-soluble nitrogen sources. Urea is going to take a little longer to dissolve, and that's at 9.2%, and the others, like 6%, will be very, very fast. These particles break up into a lot of little pieces very, very quickly when it's wet outside, which we'll be raining tomorrow. So that's why I like to do this right before it's going to rain, or if, water your lawn. But something else I'm going to do is kind of apply a liquid solution to it to kind of help jumpstart it. So how you calculate this, I kind of went over it briefly before, but I want to go over a little bit more. Inside this bag, it's 18 pounds. This also has humic acid in it as well. That's another reason why I like it. We'll get into the humic part of it later. But how you calculate it out is per 1,000 square feet. I like to put a pound, maybe 3/4, depending on the year. If it's fall time, definitely a pound. Sometimes if it's in the summertime, a half because it's hot outside. And you don't fertilize if you're not watering pretty routinely, so keep that in mind. But I do, so I've just do a lower amount. But because it's still relatively cool outside, it's like in the 70s, and that's really the perfect temperature for my grass, which is that Kentucky bluegrass and tall fescue, it can handle it. So I did a little bit, like maybe like 1.1 pounds. So per 1,000 feet, you want 1 pound. So if you do 18 pounds, and you multiply that by 0.16, let's get a calculator out. Okay, hopefully you can read this. So we have 18 times 0.16. There's 2.88 pounds of nitrogen in this bag. We want 1 pound, so let's round that up to, there's roughly, this will do 3,000 square feet, because like I said, 1 pound per 3,000, per 1,000. So 18 pounds, that's 6 pounds per 1,000. You can reverse that as well. 6 times 0.16, 0.96, pretty close to 1. I only have about 400 square feet, so I did about 3 pounds. And you do the same thing with the other numbers. I use Milorganite, and Milorganite's a 540. In my area, the phosphorus doesn't really leave the dirt very quickly, so it can get pretty high pretty fast. So I like using the 1608. Make sure which, if you want to break it down, is 402. So it's just a lot easier because I like to use the organic. Nitrogen, that runs pretty fast. That's not going to be too much of a problem. You really can never have too much nitrogen. I mean, maybe if you burn it, but that's about it. And also potash, that you can, but it's just really hard in this area. It just, this type of soils just doesn't really hold on to it very easily. I think sandy soils hold on to it a lot easier, and I definitely don't have sandy soils. It's more of a clay. Okay, so I calculated it out. So let's say you have 3,000 square foot yard. This bag, now this goes for all types, will do 1 application. Because I'm only going to use this for my front yard, the backyard is under a different regimen. Mainly because it's going to be new here soon. But what I'm going to do is this bag is going to last about 3 applications. Actually, no, 6, because I have to half it. So this bag is like 30 bucks. 6 applications, that application cost me $5. And it's got higher quality, has humic, so I like it. This isn't me endorsing anything, but I'm just saying I prefer this one. Next, to get the dark green part of it, dark green comes from nitrogen. If you like it a little bit darker, if you like a little more of a blue, in there, it's a sprayer, in there is 4 ounces of liquid iron. Now you need to get one that's called chelated. That is absorbed a lot easier in the actual blade of the grass. Iron doesn't really get absorbed through the dirt or through the roots as well as it does through the blade, so I spray it on. You could put it in a backpack sprayer, but I prefer to use it like this, mainly because the backpack sprayer will be destroyed. There's another type, it's not chelated, but it's a different one. It's a lot thicker, and I find it stains a lot easier. If you spray iron on concrete, it will stain it like a rust color. This kind of helps prevent that, so you do have to use more. It's a little bit more expensive, but you could prevent an accident from occurring. So because I do want to have as much of this cover the blades as possible, I'm now going to mow. And when I mow, I'm going to put the stripes in. I'm not going to show that because I'll do that in a different video. This is to get the greenest grass. So the combination that we're going to have to get the green grass is high nitrogen input, liquid iron, to bind all those together to really give a trifecta of green and healthy and nice. There's also humic acid in there. That's why it's so dark. So it's 4 ounces liquid iron. Like I said, this is for about 400 to 500 square feet. So, you know, if you have 2,500, you're going to need, that's 5 times larger. You need 5 times as much. You're going to need 20 ounces. So use this as a good ratio. You don't want to go too high though, because you could potentially damage your grass or even make it black. You would have to put a lot on there to make it black though, a lot. Anyway, the humic acid will kind of allow the grass to absorb a lot what we're putting in there a lot more efficiently and effectively. This is going to take, like I said, about 10 days to really show its true potential. You'll notice a difference in 2, 3, 4 days. Probably around the 4-day mark you can really see a noticeable difference, but the full effect is going to take about 10 days to occur. So, like I said, 4th of July is coming. Right now it's like the 13th of June. I'm going to do this one more time, this liquid application, not the actual fertilizer application. I might spike it with like a liquid fertilizer, like the fish emulsion or something. But you want to time it, you know, pretty appropriately. And you also have to kind of consider your grass. This is, like I said, Kentucky bluegrass and tall fescue. If you have certain types of grass that just can't get dark, this will help, but it's not going to be as dark as you really would like it. So this is really for like the tall fescue, the Kentucky bluegrass, probably the southern lawns, Bermuda. I've worked a little bit with that. It's not bad. I don't really know too much about the southern lawns, and that's why I'm called PNW. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and we don't have warm season grasses here. Okay, so I'm going to mow, put the stripes in, and then we'll come back, and we'll go over a little bit more on the liquid solution, and see what's going on. Okay, got that all done. Mowed, edged, everything is blown back in the yard. And it should be pretty good. But I kind of want to elaborate more on the fertilizer. So when you choose one, let's sit down. Let's see here. You're always going to want more nitrogen than anything else. Because, like I said, my area, the dirt, you don't need that much phosphorus because it just kind of stays there. You can overload it and actually harm your grass and plants in general. So a lot of the fertilizers you buy will have a 0 for the second number, which is fine, but you do need some. So I did a soil test last year, and the year before that, and the year before that, and my results never really changed. Potassium, phosphorus is always very high. So whenever I put anything with it, I usually try to take it out with the next application just to try to help lower it. It just, I don't know, it just makes it easier that way. That way I don't have to worry. But something else. You kind of want to have, imagine you weren't in that scenario. I want to say for every, in my opinion, the most ideal fertilizer is going to be a 5-1-3, mainly because it has a lot more nitrogen, a little bit of phosphorus, and a decent amount of potash. Potash will help bring out a lot of color. It's also good for roots. But the phosphorus, it also is good for roots, don't get me wrong. It's actually probably the main thing for roots, but it can also be a hindrance. So when you find one, kind of go on what you need. Don't just get like a 1616. Don't get me wrong. In the spring and fall, definitely put that down because that is a good tool, but not all the time. Because because you don't need equal amounts of everything. You kind of want to go a little heavier on nitrogen, not so heavy on phosphorus, and decent amount of potash. That's where I live. You could be in a different area. That's why I definitely get a test done. Go online, go to Amazon, anywhere, find one, do one. That's it. And knowing your history is also good. I know I used Milorganite for a very long time. That's why my phosphorus is pretty high, and that's why I still use it, but I don't use it nearly as often. Before I would use it 5 times a year, 6 times a year. Now it's probably down to like 2 or 3. Excuse me. So with that being said, keep an eye out on your ratios. You don't want to get one that's like 31:01. That's not going to do anything. It's going to make your grass grow fast and maybe burn. You put too much of that on there over the course of years, though, it could actually ruin your soil. Keep that in mind too. Which brings me to this. That has nothing in there except for iron and humic acid. Humic acid will help the plant absorb everything we're putting down a lot easier. Also conditions the soil, puts a lot of carbon back into the into the soil. That's another reason why I like to mulch the clippings, kind of help recycle, just to feed the dirt, feed the organisms in the dirt, because if you have sterile, clean, just plain dirt, you're never going to have a great lawn. It just won't happen unless you legitimately come out here and spoon feed it every couple days. No thank you. So in there, 4 ounces of liquid iron, about 8 ounces of humic acid, and the rest is water. That's going to help darken and make it a lot healthier, a lot thicker, a lot more just healthy in general. Like I said again, make sure to mulch. That's pretty much the key to all this. It can lead to thatch issues if you do it not properly. That I mean is when it's wet or when it's too tall. I know no one likes to do this after work, but mow your grass at least 2 times a week. At least. I usually do it on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Here soon, especially since after this, and any time that you're fertilizing heavily like we are today, pump out to 3 times, because you want to keep at a level where you're never taking more than 1/3 of the length off. I mow mine about 3.5 inches. I keep it at 3.5 inches. When it gets to 5, I usually cut it off. It's 1.5 inches. That's a little bit under than 1/3. Sounds good. If you do that, you're never going to have a thatch problem. And anyway, you should be dethatching your yard probably yearly, especially if you have Kentucky bluegrass. You can never mulch a single day in your life and you'll have thatch problems with Kentucky bluegrass. Not so much tall fescue. You will, but not to the same extent. Other than that, I'm going to spray this down. The leaves actually absorb the liquid iron and help get the grass darker, a little more of a steel blue color, and that brings out the striping. So with the 2 main ingredients to get your grass this dark and healthy and just green looking in general, it's going to be the nitrogen and the iron. Potash too, but to a lesser degree. The other 2 are the main ingredients. Okay, well, hope you like it. Hope this helps out. Get everything ready. Get ready for a nice dark green healthy lawn, and I will see everyone later. Bye. So this is the after striping. Just imagine, this is the worst it's going to look. That's why if you follow this, you can also have that. And as the sun gets brighter, it gets even better. Okay, this time for real. See everyone later. Definitely like, subscribe, and keep on watching.